Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Spotlight session. If you're joining me from the previous one, we just had Darden. So if you're joining me previously, hello again. But if you're new, you're just coming in right now, welcome, welcome. We have McCombs here, and we have Jaden and Eric with us. We have actually a great set today. So we started with Darden, now we're McCombs, and then we have UNC Keenan Flagler Business School. So you know, you have to be joining us for the rest of the day. And I know you've heard this time and time and again. Please like this video if you like the content. If you don't, please give us a feedback so that we can improve better. And please subscribe to GMAT Club. Okay, without further ado, I'll let them introduce themselves. Jaden and Eric, take it away.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jem. It is a pleasure to join GMAT Club again for this incredible webinar. Just to kind of give you a sense of who we are, my name is Jaden Felix. I'm one of the senior admissions officers here for the full-time MBA program. So excited to introduce you to one of our recent grads, Eric. Eric?
Hi, thank you, Jaden. My name is Eric Lee, and I am a recent graduate. I am in the class of 2021, a McCombs MBA, and I will be headed into management consulting, and I'll be working for PwC full-time.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into it. We have a short time to go through and share with you as much information as possible. And then we're also going to save time at the end to get your questions. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I would love to see, if you can, just drop in the chat where you're joining from. That'll kind of help us think about, content for y'all. So we're going to jump into curriculum. As you can see, people, it's an incredible environment. It's a new building, which you're going to see in just a few moments. And just to kind of frame it a little bit, is the classroom experience really is a team-based model. You are put into a team from the day one all the way to the end of your program with a capstone project for one of the courses, which we're going to talk about. We'll talk a little bit more about Common Core and the accessibility of the faculty. Just to kind of give you a layout of what the curriculum looks like. These dark blue boxes, this is the core. This is when you're in a cohort of about 60, 65 people. Then you're put into a study team. And so that study team is going to be incredibly diverse, function industry, background, lived experience. So it could be someone who has a marketing, someone from a consulting background, maybe nonprofit, educator, someone who is finance, and someone who had international work experience, right? So that's going to be a team. All coming together, working through projects. So that's the core. Second thing I'd point out is, all of this gray, or not really gray, it's like a tan color box. That's when you start choosing your elective. And that goes back to the customizable aspect of the MBA, of our MBA program. We really encourage folks to take classes outside of McCombs, which we're going to talk about in just a few moments. And then lastly, we have this new experience called Leading for Impact. The way I think about this is it's really setting you up to be the best manager that you can be. For those that kind of keep track of why people leave organizations, the number one reason why a person leaves an organization is because they have a bad boss. So we don't want our alums, Eric, for instance, we don't want Eric to be out in the world being the reason why people are leaving. If anything, we want our alums to be known for keeping people and creating an environment where they feel like they can show up as themselves, like people are motivated, you're helping people grow, and Leading for Impact is going to help you do that. Now, we do have over 20 concentrations. You're going to see we recently got STEM designated or STEM certified, so you're going to see those with those asterisks. 14 of them are STEM certified, so incredible opportunity for those that are looking for STEM certification from your MBA program. And these are really roadmaps. Now, Eric, did you decide to do a concentration, or how did you kind of approach, the concentration experience?
I ultimately decided not to do a concentration, and that was for a couple reasons. One, I found that the consulting industry, as well as my employer, didn't require it of me to declare a concentration. And I saw that in the end, I loved all of the options that were available to me. So I wanted to go with what I was really interested to take, and also areas that I saw that I was pretty weak in, namely accounting and finance, that I wanted to take those courses because I had a heavy operations background. But I do see the advantages for having the concentrations. One, you want to get the depth of study within that, like in the accounting concentration, you want to get that depth of study within accounting. And then the other thing is, I know sometimes you have this, if you see all of the classes that are available to you, you get that selection anxiety. And so this helps alleviate that.
Yeah. And just to give you a sense of, what UT Austin provides is, we are one of only 5 business schools in the nation to rank in the top 20, at least 11 of the 13 U.S. News. And actually finance, speaking of accounting, but on the finance side, I just saw that Financial Times rated them number 1. So that was kind of cool. We talked about the concentrations, and something else, this goes back to the electives that UT offers, is that we have 48 top 10 ranked graduate programs, right? So when you talk about, getting into and taking classes from renowned faculty and really getting to understand what's out there. So I don't know, Eric, did you take any classes in like our LBJ, School of Public Affairs, Law School? This is at the School of Architecture and Urban Planning. Did you take anything outside of McCombs?
Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to take anything outside of McCombs, but I know of many people that chose to do that, and they were very impressed and very happy with that.
Mm-hmm. What about some of your other electives?
The electives that I chose to take were all within the McCombs program. The ones that were the most memorable to me, I can think of 2 off the top of my head. One was financial statement analysis. Again, that highlighted my need and desire to actually develop in accounting. And that completely transformed my approach when it comes to understanding businesses, which is vital within the industry. And then at the same time, the professor of that class, he's known for challenging and pushing students to thoughtfully engage in the class. And I found that to help me in more ways than just accounting. And then negotiations, I found, was something that it was such an expansive course, and it applied in more than just the corporate environment. And plus, there were some of the cultural nuances that the professor managed to integrate within the class. So those were my 2 most memorable elective classes.
Do you mind sharing who the professors were, just in case people are taking notes, so they can put it into their essay?
For sure. One is a professor, or for financial statement analysis, that was Professor Patrick Bottolato. And I believe he earned an award. I think it was for being one of the 40 best professors under 40 from one of the MBA publications. And then the other is Professor, I forgot his first name, but Professor Brodsky.
Perfect. Thanks, Eric. Here's also a sampling of other courses that are out there that people really enjoy. Then another one that's not listed is something that a lot of students have been taking advantage of. It's Professor Adam Cobb's Business and Policy in the Age of Inequality. And we did a mock class of that, and it was incredible. I tuned into that one just to kind of learn from him, and always wonderful to do that.
Oh, I took that one.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I'm sure
three memorable classes, but I forgot that as a memorable class. Ironic.
I know, it's all right. There's too many, that's why. All right, let's talk a little bit about the student experience. Now, we have the McCombs Plus Global and Experiential Learning, formerly known as MBA Plus program. They offer an incredible experience, especially if you're looking to pivot. We have micro consulting projects. We have one-on-one coaching. We also offer these modules, which you can either tune in live to or kind of consume at your own pace afterwards. So they're even launching a diversity and inclusion certificate program, which is going to start this upcoming fall. Then we also offer short-term and long-term study abroad, which we'll get into in just a few moments. Now, Eric, did you decide to kind of dabble in the MBA Plus experience?
Oh, I actually doubled up on my MBA Plus experience. I've taken 2 MBA Plus projects. The first one that I took was, as you mentioned earlier, I did not have any consulting experience coming into the MBA program. And so the MBA Plus project offered me a chance to be able to do so. And I was able to partner with Deloitte in a future of work research project. And I was on a team of 4 other peers who I believe all of them didn't have consulting experience going in. And this offered a really challenging experience. The Deloitte team was very, very thoughtful. They provided incredible feedback, and it was a chance for me to engage with them as that was one of the firms that I was considering for internships. And so that offered a great experience to do so. And then the other MBA Plus project I had was in the summer with Whole Foods. And that was in response to the epidemic. As a result of COVID, my internship was reduced. The duration was reduced. And so I had a lot of idle time, and this gave me a chance to participate in a project that was all engineered around behavioral economics. And again, great chance to interact with peers who I wanted to work with in a business that has a very huge presence in Austin.
That's awesome. Then we got one of the things I also just want to highlight is the coaching, and that also gives you opportunity to meet one-on-one with an executive coach. And there's like a menu of offerings from, if you want to focus on maybe a presentation that you have, maybe it's because of your micro consulting project, you can get some feedback on it. Maybe you have an interview with an employer, and you just want to have another feedback session.
Yeah, and I participated in a communication coach sessions. I believe I participated in 4 or 5 different sessions. Mm-hmm. And that was super helpful. At the time, I didn't really know it, but the virtual communication presence was crucial. I didn't understand why we needed to go through it over webcam, but I guess that was an indication of what was to come. Also, he helped me in establishing a presence, trying to cut down on my fillers. I know that I've been using a bunch of them as time has gone on, but that was super helpful.
Sweet. Maybe I should probably take one too, just in case. Yeah. All right. And then some other things that we can offer you are these fellow programs. And these are oftentimes academic in nature. They are highly competitive. About 20 folks are selected for these programs. And they range from marketing. Board Fellows is really unique because that one you can do in conjunction with any of the other ones. But this is when you sit on a nonprofit board in the Austin area, work on a special project. It's typically in partnership with another MBA peer. So it's nice just to have someone else kind of bounce ideas off of. So Health Innovation Fellows, Venture Fellows, Investment Fund is a $30 million fund where you're investing real money. Lots of opportunities there. Now, in terms of other, do we have, no. Let me go to the student orgs. For student organizations, this is another kind of layer of the involvement. Lots of opportunities across the board. Eric, how did you spend your time?
Oh, a bunch of different student organizations, but the 2 organizations that I was a leader of I was an officer within the Graduate Business Council, which presided over the entire student body. And then I was the vice president of Graduate Consulting Group in terms of student organizations. I was also a member of the Graduate Business Adventure team and one of the special interest clubs, which is actually, I don't believe it's listed. So I see Wine Club on there and Brew Club, but then there's also a club that we had started called the McCombs Spirit Society, which is for pretty much everything besides brew and wine. And actually, that was a great organization to become a part of in light of the global pandemic, because we were able to help local businesses start actually having their own revenue stream in terms of offering mixology classes, virtual demonstrations, and it continued that community outside of the in-person experience. Yeah, so that's my student organization involvement. Unfortunately, I couldn't be a part of, and then the McCombs Ambassador Committee, of course. But yes, I wish I could have been involved in more, but that was a lot on my plate.
Yeah. Especially, with recruiting and consulting, you have to pick and choose.
Yeah, learning to say no was a vital lesson.
Exactly. Obviously, then we have tons of global opportunities. There is a global requirement. Many of the students will decide to fulfill this requirement through a global opportunity, like you see on the screen. Obviously, that shifted a little bit in the pandemic, but we are looking to, offer global experiences as near normal as possible. We've kind of highlighted a lot of these, but when you at McCombs, not only do you get the intimacy of the MBA program, but then you get to take advantage of everything that's offered on a large Research One institution. Here's a little bit. This is Rolling Hall. Still looks really, really new since we've been away from it for like a year and a half. Now, do you have a favorite? What was your favorite thing about Rolling Hall, Eric?
My favorite thing about Rolling Hall, it has to be that 4th level terrace that you could see outside where people usually hang out. Especially my first semester when everyone is together, we're all taking the same classes, and so the break times are at the same. Then that was a chance for all of the students to congregate together, to hang out. As Jaden had touched on, we're a very collaborative, supportive, friendly community. And that gave me a chance to get to see other friendly faces outside of the 60 to 65 students who were in my class.
Yeah. And for those who maybe aren't familiar with Austin, it's been a #1 place to live. Even if it is for 2 years, you really get to experience tech. Healthcare is growing here. So there's a lot of opportunities to dabble in the community. And also it's a great work-life balance, or integration is probably a better way to say it. How do you integrate, the schoolwork with, life? You can do that here easily. And then also, lots of companies are moving here. So again, talking about these micro consulting projects or opportunities to pick up or kind of consult for companies, great experience there. And then lastly, tons of alumni who are willing to support you through your employer search, like your employer research and networking. So speaking of career, let's go ahead and jump into some of where folks go. Tech is #1. That's from the 2019 class. 26% are going to tech, 25% were doing consulting, which Eric is going to be a part of that stat for the class of 2021. And then financial services. You'll see it sprinkle out through there. You can also see it by function on the right. Now, we do have a employment report, which we'll drop in the chat for those who are interested to see that. And if you're not able to get it through the chat, then what we'll also do is send us an email. We'll share the link with you. So, but you'll see it'll share where the list, the employers, the top recruiting partners, geographic presence. It's going to go through all of it, and it's this is only our second year compiling a employer report to share publicly. So this is going to be great information for anyone who's interested in this information. Now, a little bit about the class profile. This is Eric's class, so 260 students. 40% were women. For those who identified as Black, Latinx, or Native American, that represented 16%. And U.S. minority is Black, Latinx, Hispanic, Native American, and Asian. So that's the 28%. You'll see the breakdown of international, in-state, and then out-of-state folks. And while we list the averages, we like to pull your attention to that middle 80%. That just gives you a spectrum of successful candidates. But we don't have a preference in terms of test. Actually, for those who have been following along, maybe there, if you're on our email listserv, is we've expanded our test offerings this year. So not only, in addition to GRE and GMAT, we're also going to be accepting the executive assessment. And for those who have a master's degree, we're also going to be allowing you to submit an expired score. You can find more information about that on our website. And we have a specific website about the application process, and it'll detail all of those test requirements. And then lastly, the 3 buckets that we are looking at during the application, it's your academic profile. You will need to upload an official copy of your transcript, so please be sure to have that scanned and ready. You're going to actually upload that twice during the application. Bachelor's degree equivalent, and if you're unsure, send us an email. We can get you connected to our graduate and international admissions center who does the evaluation of degrees. And then if you're an international student whose instruction or language of instruction wasn't English, we will need a TOEFL IELTS score from you, which kind of helps us evaluate your readiness for the program. Next is work experience. We do ask for a 1-page resume, a professional recommendation, which is going to help us understand your impact, results, and leadership. That's the way I kind of think about the work experience. And we do highly suggest 2 years of full-time work experience. So this would be post degree. And then lastly, it's about you, your goals, and us. We want to get to know you a little bit more through your essays in the interview. So we can talk. We actually offer some application sessions to kind of step you through each of these buckets. So you can stay tuned to McCombs. We'll guide you through the application process, and those will be on the horizon. So, and then I've updated the round. We're going to be offering 3 rounds this year, with round 1 being our priority scholarship deadline. So, and the reason why we say that is round 1 is typically when no one's taken a seat. We still have a full scholarship budget. So that's when we can give out the most. Obviously, round 2 is the largest pool, and becomes a little bit more competitive, but it's still very successful. In terms of when to apply, I would say apply when your application is most ready. For some people, they're working on their test score. Others, it's about crafting the essay. So apply when you're ready.
So round 2 and round 3, just to clarify, the years should be 2022.
Oh,
correct?
That's true. Yes, it should be 2022. Yeah, thank you for that, Eric. All right. And then lastly, we invite you to connect with us for some upcoming events. We have some one-on-one chats. We have some group chats and information sessions on the horizon. And then in the future, as we get closer to the fall, you're going to see some topical sessions about industry, student organizations, specific function. So it's going to be incredible. And as I kind of noted, there will be an application workshop as well. Awesome. I think with that, we'll go ahead and move into the Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Jaden. Thank you, Eric, for your very wonderful, very informative presentation. We actually have a lot of questions coming in from the chat. So let me just pull in some of those. I sense a bit of theme about STEM designation. So can we talk more about STEM designation? And there any fees, extra fees for a STEM MBA?
No additional fees. It's just it's just part of the program. So if you decide to complete the STEM concentration, then that'll just kind of carry on to the degree that you get, and so that obviously then qualifies you for some different ways that the employer can use that visa and the OPT time. Oh, I forget what it's called now, but yeah, no extra fees.
Okay, that's great to hear. And I think there is some link in the chat box guys, if you have any more information that you want to get into in terms of STEM designation, there's a link in the chat box that was provided. And next question, and I think this is pretty interesting that we also got from the chat box. So in all colleges or schools, you talk about strong community, alumni, curriculum, job opportunities. So you've done in terms of presentation, but do you want to highlight something that truly sets the school apart?
Eric, you've kind of navigated this. How do you feel like it stood out to you?
Well, and yeah, I understand that a lot of colleges will talk about having that strong community. I think that the degree to which that support came out in the community was very unique about McCombs. For me personally, the way that I experienced it is that I did not expect when I came in my consulting recruitment search that there's almost an expectation that you would consider first off the support that you're giving to your other classmates. Within the graduate consulting group, it's a very unique organization that we were actually case interview prepping each other. And we were also helping sometimes within the networking opportunities in the middle of the info session to actually come up to another classmate and say, hey, I understand. I know what your background is. I just talked to another consultant who represented this firm with the same amount of experience. You should go over and talk to that person. And so I think that degree and level of support was really crucial. And then something to note within UT, this was one of my most memorable experiences, is that we had a winter storm in February that knocked out power for in my case, 60 hours. And at that point in time, my classmates became an incredible support base. They became individual friends of mine versus just like another person in the classroom for me. I was able to give people rides. People were able to check in on me just to know where my mental health was. And I think that was incredible. The other thing that is also very unique to McCombs is Austin, and recruiting in this market it can be very difficult if you're trying to approach Austin from another school or campus because of the depth of network that we have. And for me personally, I think that was how I ended up here and based out of Austin, was being able to build upon all those existing connections that I can literally walk a block down and I am now in the city, a part of the downtown area.
Yeah, that's great to hear, like from your personal experience as as someone who actually went to that school, like what you experienced. So thank you for that. And actually, the next question is related to that. So Eric, it's you again. So from Ravi, I was curious to know how you found the range of age groups learning from each other, and what is the maximum age group you notice as least in your batch, and do employers recruit them easily?
Yeah, so I'm on the older spectrum of the age group. I couldn't remember what the class profile was, but I want to say that I was even outside of the middle 80%. And I think it's great that I'm in a classroom and in my study group, for instance, that there was someone else in my group that was on the other end of the spectrum. And he came in, he's actually a dual degree MD MBA student in my group. And he brought having that in my study group, it brought this diversity, this great perspective that for our group presentations, I think that I was able to learn as much from him as he was from me. And I didn't think of it necessarily as okay, because I have more work experience that I have nothing to gain from others. So it was incredible experience that I did not feel like employers looked at me differently. They knew how old I was. And I also felt like, speaking in consulting, but I know that expanded outside of consulting, that I'm on the older end of the spectrum. People were on the younger end, and we got many of the top consulting offers.
Oh, wow, that's great to hear. And I know you mentioned about where the placements in terms of the industries that we're going to go after in the MBA. So you've shared statistics about that, but we also got a few questions on what's the help that's been given to students who wants to pivot their career to a different industry post MBA.
Yeah, absolutely. The way I talk about the way we prepare folks for that pivot or that career search process is a trifecta approach. So you have your full-time coach from career management. You have a career fellow who's a second year, been in your shoes. They've done the research. They know what's coming. And then you also have your employee relations team. And then that employee relations team is out in the market talking to current and future employers about what their needs are, making connections, as well as creating opportunities for you to meet folks. So they offer career treks based off of industry as well as geographic location. So again, it's an opportunity to network, see if you could see yourself in that company. What does career growth look like within that company? Is this a place for me? And so that's what they're kind of offering throughout your 2 years, almost 2 years here, is that opportunity. Eric, how did you kind of navigate?
Oh, I did all of the above. I think in my recruitment search, I touched on my involvement with the graduate consulting group, and I leaned on that organization to help me with the case interview prep and networking primarily. I also had a career fellow that was assigned to me. And because I was indeed pivoting, I was going from corporate supply chain education, corporate IT to consulting, that I needed someone who had that experience immediately after their first year. And so I had exactly that in my career fellow. I noticed, I'm thinking of one person offhand who was an international student. She had a consulting background, and she's now going into operations, that she had the similar support base and was able to get the position that she was looking for within supply chain too. And I think a lot of that was from that career fellow mentorship, the coaching that you touched on previously, and for me, having the experiential learning in the process through the MBA Plus. And also the treks and the case interview prep going forward to get that industry experience.
Okay. Yeah, so sounds like a lot. I mean, there's a lot of help in terms of for people moving to different career tracks. We do have one question that's asked often, and you mentioned it a while ago, but so we can just highlight it again. What are the dominant recruiting paths? Is tech the biggest destination for graduates?
Yes. Yeah, the simple answer is yes. I know we also have, I think we can drop in the chat the employment report that showcases that. But I think that from 2020, it's like 30% of the class is going to tech, again, then followed by consulting and then financial services, with investment banking being the biggest out of the financial services. And in terms of where people are going, we had 20% of the class of 2020 go to the West Coast. So that would be like Seattle, Bay Area, sometimes LA. Yeah,
and there you go. There's the employment report in the chat box, guys, if you need more information on that one. And we have a couple more to go. And this is pretty interesting, right? So how did COVID-19 affect international applications? This is from Shandin.
Yeah, that's a great question. For the class of 2022, obviously there was limited ability to travel. So the embassies were closed. People weren't able to get visas, so that had a dramatic impact on the class profile for specifically international folks. This year, though, I think we're rebounding, and you'll get to see that the international numbers very soon. The official day that we'll do, I think, a preliminary release of numbers are probably sometime in August, but our official capture date is like the 12th class day. So you can see the official numbers come out probably mid fall.
Yeah. And I know that in a study group, you want to have at least one international student per group. And so I would say something to the effect of at least 20% to be typical, something that's aspired, because in my study group in particular, I had an international student from Brazil, and we actually had certain nights where he was able to bring in his food, bring in the culture. It was a very great, memorable evening, a delicious evening where he was able to share as much about his culture as we were able to, share about the American culture too.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, it's great to have diverse people from different backgrounds coming in together, discussing things from their background. So it's going to be like you have something to add to the conversation. So it's great. Let's move on to like admission specific items. We have a couple of questions here with regards to, and I know you mentioned this a while ago, but we do still get the question of round 1 and round 2. Like, what's the advantage of doing it later, even at round 3?
Yeah, a strong application is always going to stand out. So whether it's round 1 or round 3, you're going to want to submit when you feel most confident in your essays, your resume, your test score, the story you're telling. So round 1, if you look at by numbers, it's still about the same. It's still pretty similar in terms of acceptance rate. But the major difference is, round 1 is, as I spoke about earlier, is, no one's taken a seat. We haven't given out any scholarship funding. So that's really the difference between a round 1 versus a round 3. And obviously by round 3, you hope that you've done your best to kind of yield as many people as possible. And so now it just becomes what is the space available for a round 3?
And I think there are personal advantages to applying earlier than later. So for example, if you apply round 1, then you're going to hear a decision before people who apply in round 2. And so, for example, if you are coming into the MBA program with a family or an employer that wants to hear advance notice, then this gives you a chance to plan earlier, that if you know that you're going to go into the MBA program. I know that if I compare myself, who I received my decision round 2 versus someone I know who heard his decision later, his almost sounded like it was much more stressful, and I was able to at least take some time to travel and get situated in Austin. That's
great. Thank you for sharing that, Eric. So yeah, it's just good sense to be prepared earlier the better, right? All right, and speaking of the application requirements, we do have questions on GMAT. What's the take on online GMAT, and is there a GMAT waiver, the average score and whatnot?
Yeah, so average score for GMAT is, 704 for class of 2021. It was, I think, yeah. And in terms, the range is 650 to 740. Obviously, you're going to apply when you feel like you have the strongest score. We don't have a preference in terms of test score. Waivers, we do have waivers that you could apply for. We've also expanded test offerings to include executive assessment, other things. Yeah, so for sure, check out our website so that you can see the full expanded list of test options that we have available. Also sign up for our request for information so that you can stay plugged into the latest and greatest from Texas McCombs MBA program. And what was the other thing about? Well, and then obviously with waivers, without a test score, a test score is a data point that the committee is reviewing. So without that means everything else is going to be scrutinized at a higher level, right? Then the other thing is about the pool. So how do you compare with the rest of the pool as well? So you're being compared against folks and seeing who rises to the top from a academic preparation, work experience, and then the connection to the program.
I think the other one is online GMAT exam.
Oh, yeah. For us, there is not a difference between the online exam versus versus taking it at a testing center.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for clarifying that one. The next one is pretty interesting. What are the factors that you perceive as a deal breaker in terms of, candidate profile?
A deal breaker. Interesting. So, a deal breaker. So maybe it signifies something is about the way we approach, evaluating candidates is deal breaker. I wouldn't say comes up in our conversations, but I think what we're also looking for is someone who's self-aware, right? Someone who is coachable, someone who's willing to, pour into others so that everyone is able to grow and learn. And if you think about navigating, innovation and change, and really what the pandemic revealed is you really need teams in order to navigate that. And so what we're looking for is someone who's going to be a great team member and help an organization really overcome obstacles, meet goals, and create synergy across the matrix organization. Eric?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's more helpful to just touch on the general advice and to get to know the McCombs culture and get to know us as students and the people within the admissions office, such as Jaden, to understand more about the culture as you navigate the process. And I think that from there, once you understand that culture, that's going to come out in your application. Attend the career events, get to know student ambassadors. Hey, even now that we're going to be in person pretty soon, visit a class, attend a virtual class, what have you.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're asking about like mistakes people make, I would say, if that's really what you're talking about, is what are the mistakes that people often make, I would say using a recycled essay, not answering the prompts, not doing research, which goes back to Eric's comment. Now, those will stand out in terms of, because you just haven't done the work. Or even understanding, why an MBA? Why now?
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think that goes to, because there was another question about essay, but I think you mentioned, it would show in the essay, all the things, the research that you did and, the entire profile put together.
Yeah, here's a common mistake. So one of our first essay is, we're going to learn a lot about you from your resume and your letter of recommendation. Please introduce yourself. That's not the exact prompt, but that's pretty close. But sometimes what people will do is reiterate items that we've already learned. So they'll tell us about where they work. They'll tell us about what their goals are. That is not the place necessarily for that to live, because it's already been highlighted in another place in the application. So don't waste your keystrokes. Provide new insights and information that the admissions committee can look at.
Yeah, I echo that, and I've seen videos of my classmates who they turned in for their application, and there were people who showcased their interest in horseback riding, or in their city, or the activities they enjoy doing the most, and it was very genuine. It was very authentic. Not saying that it has to be this huge production, but I watched the video and I go, okay, wow, I understand like something more about that person, a nuance, something that's very authentic. And when in the past, when I've interviewed candidates, the ones that I feel like kind of stick out as like, oh, okay, I'm not sure where this is going, is when I feel like the candidate is trying to tell me something that he or she wants for me to hear, versus I just want to see your most authentic self, and I just want to learn more about your story.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, that's very good advice, especially for the essay part where you get to know more about the candidate. So thank you so much for that. And I think we have one last question, but we're running out of time. Financial aid. So any comments or advice in terms of financial aid, like what's been given by the school?
Yeah, financial aid, great question. And I know it's a topic that a lot of folks want to understand more. From a scholarships perspective, I did see in the chat that someone asked about if we had need-based aid. All of our scholarship funding is merit-based, so it's going to be about the application, and no separate requirement. Everything you've submitted is going to be considered as part of the as a scholarship award process. It ranges from $5,000 to full tuition. I would say many folks are using either savings or loans to kind of make up the difference. And really, we've been rated as one of the number one return on investment. And really, this is an investment in yourself. And, because of where your career is heading, I think most folks will be able to pay off their loans within a matter of like little over 4 years. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that one. Okay, officially out of time. Thank you guys so much for joining today. Thank you for all your questions, really great questions. We got insights from Jaden and Eric. Thank you guys so much for your time. It's been great, especially having an alumni here to share his personal experiences. So thank you so much for your time. And, before I wrap up, I want to give Jaden and Eric just the last few points that I want to share to the candidates, last few advice.
Eric, do you want to start?
And this is for advice for applying?
Yes, for the candidates, yeah.
I think I mentioned it previously is just to be, as honest and authentic as possible. Anything additional that I would add? The first is take some time for reflection. Understand what things were you very proud of, and what role did you assume for those projects that you're most proud of, and then also to understand the impact of it. I think that's going to go a long way in understanding your story and your career journey that's leading you to the MBA and why you want that MBA to begin with. And then the other thing is, for those essays, one thing that I did was I wanted to get feedback. Feedback is a crucial part of the MBA experience, and this is a chance to start now. So when you have those essays, bring that over to a friend and say, first off, is that representative of me? But then also, I know that sometimes I can be too wordy in my essays, or I'm using language that could be way, way, way more concise. And those friends were able to do that for me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. I will concur with what he said. Yes, have folks read your essays. Well, first, I just want to say thank you to Jem. Thank you for everyone on the GMAT Club for inviting us to do this session. I hope everyone who's joining has pulled away some nuggets of wisdom that they can apply to their application. And I think my last thing would be, don't be afraid to reach out to us, and ask questions that are top of mind. I don't think there is a question that you shouldn't ask, because I want to make sure that you have as much information as possible, and as you kind of navigate this process. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure introducing you to Texas McCombs, and I hope that we'll see your application in the pool this upcoming cycle.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. And that wraps up our session. I'll see you guys in the next one, Keenan and Flagler Business School. Thank you.
Hook 'em.
Mm-hmm.